All right, guys and gals, back to work. Back to work. Man, oh man, what a move today. Markets ripping higher pretty much all day. NVIDIA just strapped to a rocket ship, dragging everything higher. Now, at this point, it's pretty simple, right? Everybody wants to buy pullbacks tomorrow, but you probably know this already. Buying pullbacks is a simple idea, but it's not as easy to kind of pick that perfect pullback entry. The good news, though, is anytime we see a big move higher, like we saw today, there are two types of pullback trades I always look for the following day. The first one is by far the most common. The second one, though, if we're lucky, the second one's not as common, but I'll tell you, it's easier and can be a lot more lucrative. So two trades we track for tomorrow, two perfect pullbacks for tomorrow. We're going to cover all the details in the video tonight. By the time we're done tonight, it'll be an easy roadmap to make some money tomorrow morning as well. And before we jump in, and to my favorite trades for Thursday, make sure you subscribe to our channel. I don't want you to miss tomorrow night's video, so make sure you subscribe. And if you enjoy these videos, hit that like button for me. Give me a shout out, give me a hell yeah down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for sticking around tonight, tuning in, supporting our channel. Enough of the intro though, let's go for Thursday. Big move higher, $3 trillion market cap. NVIDIA now bigger than Apple. My goodness, dragging everything higher. Now, where are the best trades setting up for tomorrow's trading session? Charts are already, as you can see here, NASDAQ triple Qs are already, the S&P and the SPY is ready. We have two very important clues right now on these charts that are making it very easy to anticipate where the winners are going to be for tomorrow. One of those clues is right in front of us on the 60-minute time frame. It is easy to see. We are bullish right now on the S&P and SPY, bullish right now on the NASDAQ and the triple Qs. I like to use these 60-minute charts, give us the overall directional bias. But the one thing these hourly time frames do not do is help us time the entries. I have one more important clue on some faster time frames, on some tick charts. We're going to cover that in more detail and talk entries here in just a moment. Before we do though, let's look at our schedule for tomorrow. We have a pretty busy morning tomorrow morning. Tomorrow is pretty much your typical Thursday. Get some big news coming out at 8:30 Eastern time. Jobless claims, of course, the big headline number at 8:30 tomorrow morning. Also, too, don't forget, tomorrow we have the ECB announcement expected to cut rates tomorrow morning as well. So that may lead to some shenanigans, some volatility tomorrow morning in the pre-market. So be aware of that between 7 o'clock and 8:30 tomorrow morning. So two things on my radar on a Thursday morning. ECB announcement. They're going to probably cut rates like the Bank of Canada did this morning. And of course, that big news tomorrow, jobless claims at 8:30 Eastern time. Be aware of that. But back to our charts though, because it's good to know when the news is, but we all know the money is made on the charts here. Let's now talk my favorite trade for tomorrow. We know, of course, that 60-minute charts right now are bullish. You probably don't need me to tell you that after a big move higher like today. But again, like I said earlier, the one thing these hourlies don't do is they don't give us entry timing tactics. Let's talk entries now on the tick charts. I always use tick charts for entries because tick charts are best for pattern recognition. This, of course, is a 7,000 tick chart linked up there in the upper left-hand corner. And if you're watching for the first time right now, welcome to my channel. This is the 21 EMA. I mentioned earlier there is one more clue right now on these tick charts, and that is this big move higher. Now, big move higher are a very significant clue to me because it tells me there are two types of pullback trades I always look for. Let's cover that most common, very easy, but most common one first. And we'll save the second one, which is a bit rarer, but a lot more, I think, easier and can be a lot more lucrative. Let's start first, of course, with that first one here tonight. Most important thing, anytime we see a big move in one direction, we know we don't want to buy high. There's a lot of momentum on the side of the buyers right now, but we don't want to buy high. We want to buy nice and low. So one of the two scenarios, the two setups I look for after a big move is going to be what's called a two-legged pullback and a retest of that high. Now, experienced traders know there are a lot of ways to make money on this. We can definitely buy the pullback. I have three different entry tactics I'm going to use to buy the pullback because you know by now, you probably know already, it's tough to find that perfect bottom. So we'll talk about three different entry triggers, entry signals I'm watching for tomorrow. And then I have 2 reversal trades, 2 double top reversals off that high, because again, we're so high up right now. Anybody who buys that deep pullback will probably be taking profit back at that high, and it might be difficult to get more buyers to buy up there. So we have a lot to talk about in this first of 2 different scenarios. So grab some screenshots, take some notes. Any questions, hit me up in the comment section down below. When I talk about a 2-legged pullback, I'm thinking about a measured move that goes a bit too far. In our free video classes, we talk a lot about measured move, right? A, B, C, D, 1 leg, 2 legs. So the first thing is, when I say 2-legged pullback, think about a measured move that goes a bit too far, a bit more than a measured move. Now, once we get that 2-legged pullback a bit more than a measured move, I am not going to pick that bottom. If there's one thing you've learned from me over the last few months, sometimes these things can really drop, and picking the right spot on that can be more difficult than it seems, right? So once we have the 2-legged pullback, I'm then going to look for a combination entry, which I call a failure. Try once, try twice, into a bear trap pattern. Now, of course, these are very simple patterns. Let's talk about these as we go back up to that high. Again, 2-legged pullback. I'm not going to pick the bottom. I'm going to wait for price to pull back to that 21 EMA. This will seem like a reversal. When I was a rookie almost 20 years ago, I would have thought that deep pullback is a reversal and look for the short off that pullback. Once I get those rookies trying twice, I'm going to use their stops to fuel that move back up to retest the high. In the free video course, we call these a failure pattern, right? A failure, a seller failure pattern. 2 tries, trapping the bears, run those stops, back up again. Then an add-on trade, or if you miss the failure, the add-on trade now is called a bear trap. It's a higher high in price, a move right below that low. These are called traps. If there's one thing you learn from my videos, you have to learn how traps work. They're one of the easiest ways to make consistent profits. Now, if we buy that failure and buy that trap pattern, where does the market want to go? It wants to go back up now and retest that high. Now think about this. Anyone who buys on these pullbacks, they sell their way out of that high. Now, as we go back up to retest the high now, this is where we look for a short off the high. There are 2 types of short patterns I look for. One is called a crown reversal pattern, which is basically wrapping together a buyer failure along with a bull trap. Buyers try once, buyers try twice, look for that bull trap above that high. Remember, this is a horrible spot to be a buyer. Rookies will buy at these highs. Everyone buying low takes their profit off at that high, trapping those buyers. 1 try, 2 try, use their stops to fuel that move back down again. And think about this. Where's the target? Back down to retest that low. A second trade I look for coming off that high is a V top. Oftentimes markets will slice off that high and begin to grind running lower like this. Mark up the trend of the low, up around that high, and as we talk about in our free video course, look left, find some prior swings, and you want that first test off the high of that channel. And again, I want this entry here. I want this before we go back and take out that low. So again, one of the 2 scenarios I'm looking for tomorrow is that 2-legged pullback. How far? A bit more than a measured move. We don't pick that bottom. We wait for price to come back, let the rookie bears try a couple times, squeeze those stops with a failure pattern, and on the way back up to retest the high, we use that bear trap pattern right below that low on the way back up to retest the high. We take our profit back at the high. We don't buy high now. We wait for rookies to come in. And again, there are 2 types of shorts off that high. Buyers once, buyers twice. We call these crown reversals. They're basically a bull trap off the high, nice strong signal for that short going lower. And again, targets where? Back down to retest that low. Or one of the easier ones is that V top. It slams back down, begins to grind down on the chart. That grinder is a dead giveaway. We mark off that low. We pin it up around that big high. And again, we look left, find some prior swings, and I want that first touch, that first short off the top of that channel. It could be a bull trap, it could be a buyer failure pattern, it could be a pullback combination, a strength trade going lower. Any of the setups we teach in the free video course work off the top of that channel, and the goal, of course, is to go back down and take out that low. This will oftentimes become one big trading range. So that's our first scenario for tomorrow. Now, before we talk about the second scenario though, let's slow down for a second though, because I know most of you guys and gals watching right now, you know these patterns, you know two-legged pullbacks, you know failures and traps, you're making money with these, that's great. But if you're watching for the first time right now, this might be a brand new language for you. Don't you worry though. I teach all these entry patterns. I have hundreds of examples of two-legged pullbacks, traps, failure patterns. I teach all of this in our free video classes. I'll put a link up top here for you. Don't you worry. Upper right-hand corner, grab that link that popped up there and take that free trading course, because the strategy I teach in that video series will teach you a stupidly simple trick we use in our members trade room, so we always know where the best winning trades are going to be every morning. Most importantly though, I want to help you start making money on your own. I'll teach you 4 my favorite entry patterns. You'll learn failures, traps, strength trades, and a whole lot more. It's all covered in that short video series. So hit that link up top there. Guys, the markets are so good right now. If you're not making consistent money, if you're missing the best trades each day, if you're still struggling to qualify for a funded account at Top Step or Apex, hit the link up top there. It's perfect for someone trying to make the jump into full-time trade, because again, it'll give you an easy roadmap so you always know where the best trades are going to be every day. Also be aware too, I'm going to put all the important links tonight in the description of the YouTube video. My free class links will be down there. We trade together every day in our trade room. I'll put membership information down there as well. And of course, I post a lot of updates on Twitter and X throughout the day. If you're on Twitter, X, I'll put my handle down there. Give me a follow. Again, all the important links will be down there in the description of the YouTube video. Now, before we talk about that second scenario, let's cover some variations of this, because there are a couple different variations of this. I always like to get that two-legged pullback, trap the bears in, and back up to retest the high. But you know what? Sometimes though, we don't get that bear trap. We don't get that failure pattern to trap the bears in. If I don't get that 2 tries and it's just simply boing right back up off that low, watch for this pattern. It almost always will begin to grind going higher. Now we know the market wants to go back up and retest that high, right? That's where the market wants to get to. I don't want to chase after this as it goes higher. Watch closely. Draw a trend line off that high, bring it down off that low, look left, find some prior swings, and you want to get that first test off the low of that channel. Now again, this could be a trap, like I'm showing you here. Oftentimes we get underneath that moving average, the bears will come in, get short. That's where failures will live, failures into pullback combinations. And again, if you're my free video class right now, this will all make a lot more sense. Trap, failure, pullback combo. And again, the target is back up to retest the high. So again, if we do get that two-legged pullback, we don't get that juicy failure to get in and squeeze. If it V bottoms off that low, that's the follow-up trade I'm looking for on that V bottom reversal. One more thing is a shallow pullback. We all want that deep pullback right now, right? But sometimes all we get is one strong leg lower. If all we get is one strong leg lower, the market loves to pop right back up again. Be careful with these, all right? Because oftentimes that one leg lower turns into 2 legs lower, right? And then we go back up. Whenever I see a real strong pullback leg going lower, I always look for what I call a shallow pullback trap. It's very, very simple. Because that move lower is a relatively shallow pullback, I'm not going to have a lot of buyers want to buy up there. So I'm going to use a very simple bear trap pattern. Anytime I have a big move and all I get is a shallow kind of one-legged pullback like this, again, I have to be careful because we expect another leg going lower to attract in more buyers and then make that run back up again. To protect myself against that next leg lower, I wait for proof the bears have tried once, tried twice. Now notice the difference on this pattern setup. It's a higher high in price and a trap right below that low. Why is it a trap? Because I don't want to buy this thing as it goes higher. If you buy as it goes higher up there, if I buy up here, my risk is here, my reward is right there. That risk-reward ratio is not very attractive, right? However, if I get in now down here, now my risk is here, my reward is here. See how different that is? These are trades you can build a career on. You're not going to build a long-term career by buying high right there. Risk, of course, now is there. Reward is right there, right? Rookies trade those. Professionals will take those better risk-reward ratio. That's why a shallow pullback, I always wait for a trap. If I get a deeper two-legged pullback, a bit more than a measured move, then I'm not so worried about buying high. Now I can trap the bears in with a failure pattern. If I buy, the price goes high now my risk is there, my reward is right here, right? Does that make sense? It's very important to understand that simple factor of how risk reward tells you whether or not it's a failure pattern or a trap pattern. Again, you'll learn more of the details of differences there inside that free video course. All right, so now we've covered a lot of the variations of that first scenario. Now let's talk about that second scenario. Again, this is the most common scenario, is that two-legged pullback after a big move in one direction. Let's look at the NASDAQ now. What a rip this NASDAQ made. Yeah, definitely not a reversal off the top of that range we speculated in last night's video. Got that big breakout running higher, right? NVIDIA strapped to a rocket ship. We know we're bullish. We know we're obviously back to all-time highs and some right now. That big move higher. Let's go to the tick charts here now. On the 4,000 tick chart, by the way, slightly different tick chart there on the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is lower volume than the S&P is. Same idea, right? A huge move overhead. So we want to get that two-legged pullback. I want to get that bear trap down, or that failure pattern, that failure into that trap combination, run back up to retest the high, and then grab that bull trap pattern off the high, grab that V-top pattern we mentioned earlier. Same basic game plan we mentioned before on the S&P. And again, right, shallow pullbacks, you want to buy as low as you can with traps, right, to give you that good risk-reward ratio, right? If we get that V bottom off that low, boing off that low, you want to make sure you grab that channel and grab that first test off that channel, right? It's pretty much the same exact game plan we mentioned there on the S&P. Now, let's cover now that second scenario that, again, is not as common as the first, but I'll tell you it's easier to make money with, and in my eyes, it's a lot more lucrative. Let's talk about that. Ranges. Sometimes we get these big moves in one direction and nobody takes their profit because they want to see how far we'll go. So nobody's selling out of it. And the bears, of course, they're like, no way, I'm not going to sell this thing right now. So oftentimes what happens is these markets, when they make these big moves, oftentimes the following day, they go sideways into a trading range. Now, ranges are so valuable for two reasons. One is that ranges act like magnets. Two, ranges love to rotate. So the amount above, the amount below, the amount above, the amount below, ranges act like magnets and they love to rotate up and down, usually about the same amount. We talk a lot more about this in the free video course. A lot of examples of ranges because we see a lot of ranges in our trading every week. Now, range market. There are two types of trades you want to look for in a range market. The first things first is when you find a range, you want to look left, find some prior swings, and find levels of support below that trading range. It's a bull market overall, and my job really is to find things like trend lines, find things like channel lines, right? Find levels of support down here I can look to anchor my entries off of. Now, just like on the two-legged pullback, I want to get underneath that trading range. Once I get that move lower, remember that range above us is a magnet, I'm going to go out now and try to trap in those rookies. Again, I know that we know better than this, but at one point, all of us were rookie traders. And when I was a rookie, a strong move down like that on a faster time frame will feel like a reversal. So it's not a reversal. We know that, right? But again, we also know better than that by now, right? A lot of inexperienced traders will come into the market every day. They will see that pullback. They'll go, wow, I got some divergence. Momentum says, yada, yada, right? They'll think it's a reversal. Now, trap those rookies in. Let those bears try a couple times and think about that failure into that trap pattern I mentioned earlier. Now, the reason why I said these can be most lucrative is because now think about how ranges work, right? It's a failure, a trap pattern. What I do is take some profit off at the high of that range. But remember, where does a range want to go? It wants to rotate. The amount below, the amount above. Promise me, if we get a range here tomorrow at any point this week, leave that runner because these things can make your entire week on those runners. That's why I said earlier, these are kind of the easiest ways to make money because once we know where that range is, now we know that's the magnet. We wait for that pullback, that failure into that bear trap combination. And then again, what I always do is take half off, top of that range, and leave some runners because again, it wants to rotate, unlike in the first example where I would look to short off that retest. In a range, I would not want to short the retest of that high. Does that make sense, right? So a range tells us, look for that rotation back up again. That can be a very, very easy way to make a ton of money in just one or two trades and leave that runner. Now, let's kick this up one more notch. If you understand that basic idea, now let's talk about what is more difficult, right? This one is tricky. I'm going to warn you here. This is the one that will fool you if you're not paying attention. Range. Now, we know that ranges are magnets. We're bullish overall, love to rotate. What is very common is a breakout above that trading range. Now, these are very tempting. These almost always seem like a guarantee we're going higher. Breakouts always seem so convincing, don't they? Remember though, it's a big move up. Do I really want to buy high above a range? Please say no. Please say no. No, this is not the game plan. The game plan is trap the rookies in. Now, if I'm going to sell short on this, I got to make sure I get a good signal. The best signal for this is one of those crown reversals, one try, two try. Remember, lower low in price, a bull trap above that high, and that short back down again. Strong red candle, closing below that moving average, right? It's that bull trap pattern, that crown reversal pattern you guys love so much off the high of that range. Now, remember, the amount above the range, the amount below the range. This is where the magic happens because when this thing rolls off the high, it's going to feel like the world is coming to an end, all right? It's going to feel like, oh my goodness, we're never going back. Guys, all it is, it's just a rotation off the high. And now all of that momentum here, remember, we're not going to pick a bottom on this, right? Because it may keep going for a little bit, right? We're not going to pick a bottom on this. However, once it pulls back to that moving average, right? Once it finally pulls back to the moving, because again, it will overshoot by a bit there because again, these oftentimes do become very, very strong. It's not a reversal though. It's a big move up. It's just a deep pullback in an overall bull market. Don't pick the bottom, trap the bears in. Trap those rookies in who haven't discovered my videos yet. Let them try once, let them try twice. Get those stops in here, right? Get those stops in there and run those stops. And remember, those failure patterns turn into, what was it again? Higher high in price, and a trap right below that low. Now remind me again, where does the market want to go? The market wants to rotate, right? Failure, trap pattern, takes them off at the top of that range, and you better leave a runner where all the way to the other side of that range. Because again, ranges love to rotate back and forth. So whether we get a straight pullback or whether we get that fake out breakout off that high. Lots of easy ways to make money. Let's all hope we'll get that range at some point tomorrow or even Friday morning. At some point, this market will go sideways, and this is the game plan we'll use tomorrow morning or at any point this week in our trade room to find what are usually some pretty easy, lucrative winning trades. All right, guys? So now you know the two scenarios we're looking for tomorrow, the two-legged pullback and the variations, and the range bound market. Trade that rotation. That's the plan for tomorrow and really the rest of the week here. Now, don't forget, tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock Eastern time, the easiest way to start making money in these markets is come out and learn this stuff and trade with us, 8 o'clock every morning in our trade room. I'll put all the important links you guys need to get started in the description of the video. I would always recommend start first on the free classes, learn the strategy, start making money on your own, and don't forget, any trouble getting access, any issues getting into the free video classes, you can always call the office, use live chat, send me an email. If you have trouble getting started, let me know. I'll help out every step of the process. But guys, the game plan's ready. Hope you learned a bunch here tonight. Hope you use this knowledge to make a killing tomorrow morning. And hopefully I'll see you sometime soon trading with us as a member in our trade room at 8 o'clock Eastern time. In the meantime, be well out there, be nice to each other out there, and be here next time. Adios, amigos. Bye for now.